Tonight, more than a week after a body was found inside an impounded Tesla registered to the singer who goes by the stage name David, Los Angeles investigators identifying the remains as 15-year-old Celeste Rivas.
She was like, David, this song is too violent. You're talking about killing people in your music? No, not my son. And I was like, wait, I might be onto something, bro.
A brand new clip just blew up online. And honestly, it's wild. In the footage, David is seen wiping the sneakers of the same young woman whose body was later found in his car trunk. The internet immediately lit up with theories. But here's the thing. The reason this snippet is getting so much traction is darker than it looks at first glance. This isn't a random scroll past video. It's an old tape that's come back around, showing David crouched down, methodically cleaning Celeste's shoes, like he's following some eerie routine.
She met this dude on social media. He was a rapper in LA. He came and got her. She ran away from home. She was gone for like a month. The cops found her in Hollywood, brought her back to our school. She came back to our school, kind of told people this story. She disappeared again in May of that year, May of 2024. That's when her friends told me what happened, that it was this rapper. And then I found out yesterday that she's now dead in that rapper's car, cut into pieces. You want to know how they met? I feel like I just said it. Social media.
Within minutes, social platforms were buzzing. Some folks shrugged it off as nothing unusual. Others called it straight up sinister. The strangest part? No one seems to know who dug this clip up or why it's being pushed now. Every slow movement on the tape feels deliberate. Every moment carries weight, as if there's some hidden message waiting to be decoded. So people are asking, why is this resurfacing? And what kind of darkness does it point to? Let's rewind and look at how this nightmare unfolded. What began as tow yard workers dealing with a routine call quickly turned into one of the most disturbing cases LA has seen in a long time. When the remains of Celeste Rivas Hernandez were found, everything shifted instantly. Detectives began to assemble a timeline and signs of foul play, reportedly tracing back to a time when Celeste was still alive and vulnerable.
She came back to our school, kind of told people this story. She disappeared again in May of that year, May of 2024. That's when her friends told me what happened, that it was this rapper. And then I found out yesterday that she's now dead in that rapper's car.
The discovery of Celeste's body. On September 8th, 2025, workers at a Hollywood impound lot stumbled onto something straight out of a nightmare. Inside the front trunk of a black 2023 Tesla, they found a bag containing the badly decomposed body of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. That Tesla was registered to rising musician David Anthony Burke, who goes simply by David. And it had been towed a few days earlier from the Hollywood Hills after neighbors reported a foul smell coming from the vehicle. That odor turned out to be the start of a horror story that would rock the city. The timing is chilling. Celeste's 15th birthday was on September 7th, literally one day before her remains were discovered. But insiders say the level of decomposition indicates she likely didn't make it to that birthday. Investigators think she may have been deceased for a long time, possibly since her disappearance in April 2024. So this isn't just a heartbreaking missing person case. It's something much darker. Online sleuths, police records, and family statements are being stitched together, and they're painting a disturbing picture of alleged predatory behavior between David and Celeste. Some reports claim the relationship may have begun when she was only 11 or 12, and he was roughly 16 to 18. Those are grooming allegations, and they land hard. One detail that sent people reeling: matching tattoos. Both David and Celeste reportedly had the same ink on their right index fingers, the letters SH. On its own, that could be written off as coincidence, but given the rest of the context, that tattoo became a key identifier. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office even said the tattoo helped confirm her identity, directly tying her to David in a way investigators couldn't ignore. More from the family. Celeste's mother publicly stated her daughter had been seeing someone named David around the time she went missing. That's not rumor, it came straight from her mom. Add to that photos reportedly showing David in Celeste's neighborhood just before she vanished, and the case looks a lot less random. Celeste's home was over an hour away from where David lived. Lake Elsinore, about 70 miles east of LA, which suggests he wasn't just driving through. To many, that points to intent. Then there's David's music. In December 2023, 4 months before Celeste disappeared, a demo called Celeste leaked on SoundCloud. Because it was created while their alleged relationship was supposedly ongoing, not after she went missing, listeners have been revisiting the track with fresh alarm. The lyrics come off as possessive and oddly specific, with lines about tattoos and closeness that feel disturbingly personal. Finally, there are alleged Discord chats from 2021 to 2023 that show David communicating with Celeste while she was still underage. Taken together, these pieces are what people are using to try to make sense of a devastating and complicated case. The exact messages in those chats haven't been released to the public yet, but the fact that they exist leaves a clear digital breadcrumb trail investigators are now following, piece by piece. The story only gets heavier when you look at Celeste's history. She'd gone missing before, once in January 2024 and again in April. So her final disappearance wasn't an isolated event. Instead, it looks like a pattern where she repeatedly tried to reconnect with someone matching David's description. One of the most gutting details came from a middle school teacher who had known Celeste years earlier. That teacher said Celeste had disappeared before, was later found in Hollywood, and returned to school. Each time the circumstances seemed tied to someone who fit David's profile. This isn't the simple tale of a runaway teen. It reads more like a young person repeatedly pulled back into the orbit of an older influence that had a real hold over her choices. The physical evidence made the situation painfully real. When Celeste's remains were examined, she was reported to weigh about 71 pounds, with wavy black hair, wearing a tube top, black leggings, a yellow metal chain bracelet, and a single stud earring, plus that distinctive tattoo. Those details, combined, gave forensic teams the confirmation they needed to close the identity question after more than a year of uncertainty. And the deeper you dig, the more the coincidences stop looking accidental. Matching tattoos, family confirmations, photos placing David near her neighborhood, possessive song lyrics, repeated disappearances. Taken together, they point to an alleged relationship that may have started when she was still a child and David was transitioning into adulthood. The trail darkens from there. Fallout and unanswered questions. By mid-September, the investigation escalated. On September 18, 2025, the LAPD executed a massive search warrant at a Hollywood Hills mansion where David had been staying. One of the most forceful raids the city has seen in years. Officers seized electronics and tore through the property searching for blood and other forensic traces. That mansion sat just 2 blocks from where David's Tesla was abandoned and later towed with Celeste's remains inside. Investigators weren't just eyeballing the place. They used luminol, the chemical that makes invisible bloodstains glow, and combed drains, floors, and walls looking for anything that might have been cleaned away. That depth of forensic work suggests detectives suspected the mansion could be the actual crime scene. Even more disturbing, reports indicate Celeste's body was dismembered, and that not all remains were recovered, which is why teams were combing pipes and drains for tissue and blood that might have been flushed or washed away during an attempted cover-up. The mansion also exposed how connected David already was in the business. The house was rented by his manager, Josh Marshall, who's linked to Intercope Records. That detail raises tough questions. What did people around David know? And how far did the industry look the other way while his career was being built? Every breadcrumb seemed to lead back to David as the main tenant of that Hollywood Hills mansion. The place was listed at a jaw-dropping $20,000 a month, enough to make folks wonder how he was affording that life. And the proof he lived there was hard to deny. His social feed practically doubled as a residency log. He wasn't just stopping by for photos, he was posted up there a lot. Clips and pictures shot inside the house gave detectives more to work with. He showed off the lifestyle, hosting names like Benny Blanco and the crew Cat's Eye under that roof. But police weren't interested in flex shots. They wanted concrete links tying Celeste to that address. The fact that investigators haven't been able to place her there yet is its own kind of signal. What has emerged, though, is a digital trail that's difficult to dismiss. Photos of David and Celeste together, including one from a live stream where they appeared side by side. Reportedly, David told mods to take the stream down afterward, a move that screams he knew how damaging that footage could be. Then there's the photo that made people's stomachs drop. David and Celeste at an LA event in October 2023. She just turned 13. He was about 17 or 18. The age gap, the setting, the image itself stacked together, it's chilling and raises serious questions about what was happening away from the spotlight. As the probe accelerated, the music world moved quickly to distance itself. His world tour across North America and Europe collapsed. The album rollout with Interscope froze. Brands severed ties. Crocs and Hollister dropped him, and Fortnite removed his emote. The Grammy Museum quietly scrubbed him from an appearance, and merch tied to his bloody stage persona vanished. Those red-stained shirts gone overnight. Here's the sick twist. Even as the industry erased him, listeners kept playing his music. Romantic Homicide shot up a staggering 102 spots on Spotify's global charts right after the story broke. A song that once read as moody suddenly felt like ominous evidence. Lyrics that, in the new context, sounded less like art and more like a confession. Which leads to the ugly question everyone's asking now. Was David turning real-life tragedy into material for his music?
And I played it for my mom. And whenever my mom hates something, I know it's cool. And she was like, David, this song is too violent. You're talking about killing people in your music? No, not my son. And I was like, wait, I might be onto something, bro.
Songs like Romantic Homicide don't just feel moody anymore. In the wake of everything we've seen, they read like something darker, almost a mirror that reflects real-life horror. Even the backstory behind the track creeps people out. David reportedly said his own mom hated the song so much her reaction pushed him to release it. That throwaway anecdote now sits under a brutal spotlight, because fans and industry folks are wondering how many warning signs were staring everyone right in the face. Listen to the lyrics again and they land differently. In the back of my mind, I killed you, and I didn't even regret it. I can't believe I said it, but it's true. I hate you. Lines like that, paired with the timeline of the allegations, stop sounding like theatrical dramatics and start sounding like a ledger of obsession. People are recontextualizing everything, the songs, the live banter, the late-night streams, trying to decide how much of the art was performance and how much might have been personal confession. Meanwhile, David's silence has become its own narrative. No press statements, no consoling social posts, nothing. In celebrity scandals, radio silence rarely looks neutral. It screams. The last time he was seen publicly was at a Seattle show, days before the LAPD's big Hollywood Hills search where investigators used luminol and even examined drains. Since that raid, he's been quiet, and sources say his legal team has told him to stop talking to cops. That's a hard pivot, because early on he was reportedly cooperating. Now, for legal strategy reasons, the smart play is to clam up. When investigators are pulling tissue from pipes and using chemical tests on floors, anything said without a lawyer could be used to destroy a defense in court. To the public, though, the silence just piles up suspicion. In the court of public opinion, people want answers now, not months down the line. And unanswered questions breed narratives far faster than official statements ever do. From a prosecutorial standpoint, there's a blunt checklist they still need to clear before they can make an airtight case. Place the suspect at the time of death or at the time the body was put into the trunk. Link the suspect physically to the remains through DNA, fingerprints, or other forensic traces. Or turn up a clear confession or witness testimony that corroborates the timeline. The Tesla being registered to him is damning in a headline, but registration alone won't convict. Prosecutors need evidence that ties presence and action to the crime, surveillance footage with timestamps, geolocation data from phones, DNA matched to the scene, or a credible witness who can place him at key moments. At the same time, the mounting digital trail, screenshots, live stream footage, alleged Discord messages, and photos placing him with Celeste isn't nothing. In modern prosecutions, digital breadcrumbs can corroborate timelines and relationships. If investigators can show a pattern of contact, grooming behavior, or coordination that lines up with disappearances, that helps build a narrative for jurors. And, crucially, if reports that he communicated with another underage girl are true, that could demonstrate a pattern of predatory behavior that brings additional charges even separate from the Celeste case. All of this is why the LAPD has been so tight-lipped. They're not just collecting evidence, they're protecting the chain of custody, making sure each piece, from seized phones to luminol-lit stains, can survive in court. Premature leaks or messy handling could give defense lawyers the opening to get key evidence thrown out. So while the public wants drama, investigators are moving methodically and quietly. But methodical doesn't mean slow to have consequences. The industry already reacted. Tour dates canceled, corporate partnerships severed, and collaborators distancing themselves while the investigation continues. Meanwhile, streaming numbers and public obsession have paradoxically kept the music in people's ears. A grim example of how scandal and curiosity feed off each other. Bottom line, the pressure is on from both sides. Investigators need concrete, legal-grade evidence to turn suspicion into charges. The public is hungry for an answer that explains how the clues, the songs, the photos, the live streams, the alleged messages tied together. And until prosecutors can produce that smoking gun or a set of irrefutable links, the case sits in a sort of charged limbo. Heavily implied, widely discussed, legally unresolved. Meanwhile, every silence, every deleted clip, and every new leak just fans the flames of speculation, which could bury a person's reputation long before a courtroom does. And then you look at the timeline, and it just makes the whole thing feel 10 times worse. Allegations say David first messaged Celeste back in 2021, when he was around 16, and she was only about 11 or 12. Fast forward to 2023, and according to reports, things intensified. David was legally an adult at 18 while Celeste was still 12 for part of that year. If that chronology is accurate, prosecutors wouldn't even need to prove a homicide to pursue serious charges. Statutory molestation alone would be a major criminal case. Maybe the wildest twist, though, is how social media has become both the crime scene and the makeshift courtroom. The same apps and sites where David allegedly connected with Celeste are now the places people are aggregating alleged evidence. Reddit threads, Twitter deep dives, TikTok timelines, and the internet sleuths are moving way faster than official channels. That speed is useful, sure, but it's also dangerous. When the public hands out instant judgments, the line between accountability and online mob justice gets razor thin. Public reaction has been raw. Fans who once defended David are split, half ready to erase him from their playlists forever, the other half desperate to believe the allegations aren't true. At the same time, the music industry is taking heat for missing what, in hindsight, look like glaring red flags. People point to romantic homicide, the leaked demo named Celeste, and allegedly disturbing visuals in David's videos, characters that resemble Celeste, violent themes, and his alter ego persona leaning into dark symbolism tied to her. One detail that really set people off was recurring Hello Kitty imagery, the same motif on the sandal Celeste was reportedly last seen wearing, and now fans are asking if the art was always secretly mapping real events. And the human part of this is heartbreaking. Celeste wasn't reported missing just once. She was listed as missing in January 2024 and again in April, which makes the final disappearance feel less like a single tragedy and more like part of a pattern.
We also don't know what David's cooperation has been with cops. We were told early on he was cooperating with cops. Now it seems kind of unclear.
Each time she came back, it wasn't a homecoming. It was another tether pulling her farther from safety and into a darker orbit. Every return to LA seemed to chip away at whatever shield her family tried to build around her. She'd leave, they'd breathe for a minute, then she'd be gone again. And every time she resurfaced, she was somehow closer to David and farther from the protection of the people who loved her most. Over time, those patterns stack into something awful. What looks like a steady erosion of a kid's autonomy, replaced by dependence on someone older and influential. For Celeste's family, the toll has been more than emotional. It's been relentlessly public. They've been forced to grieve under bright, unforgiving lights, to answer cameras and feeds while trying to bury a daughter. A GoFundMe was set up to cover funeral costs because grief often comes with sudden, brutal expenses. And Celeste's mother had to stand in front of microphones and declare that her daughter had been seeing someone named David when she disappeared, a line that landed like a blow. That admission, raw and human, showed the world how personal and specific this pain really is. It's one thing to read about an alleged relationship in headlines. It's another to hear a mother say it out loud while the cameras roll. Which brings up the questions that won't quit. Will the forensics from the Hollywood Hills property finally give prosecutors the chain of proof they need? Can they pull communications, geolocation data, or time-stamped media from seized devices that squarely place David at the right place and time? Will any of the electronics he had on him spit out receipts, DMs, deleted streams, photos that show coordination, coercion, or anything that proves intent? Or will it all remain tantalizingly close, but legally insufficient? And then there's the human question. Is David going to keep locking down behind a legal strategy that says don't talk, or will he break the silence and speak for himself? Right now he's quiet, and that silence is a live wire in the public imagination. This isn't just a single-source tragedy. It's a picture of systems failing a kid. The music industry, social platforms, and celebrity culture, all of them are getting dragged into the wake of this. The stories become a mirror reflecting big, uncomfortable questions about how fame is made, who gets protected while careers are built, and what warning signs everyone missed while cashing checks and boosting streams. And the truth is, the story keeps getting darker the more you look. Investigators aren't done. The LAPD's robbery homicide team is still picking through devices, examining metadata, and sending hard drives to digital forensics labs. They're trying to reconstruct timelines, piece together deleted messages, and see if anything lines up with the times Celeste vanished. Rumors spread like wildfire online, everything from lurid claims about dismemberment to speculation about pregnancy sparked by an old tweet, but none of that is officially confirmed. Still, those unverified whispers muddy the public conversation and make it harder for truth to cut through. Beyond the grim details, what's become painfully obvious is how public this family's pain has been made. Strangers are dissecting Celeste's last months in comment threads and clips, turning private grief into a kind of spectator sport. Her parents have had to respond not only to investigators, but to a global audience, all while trying to feel it all human. Their cooperation with law enforcement, despite the spotlight, shows a resilience that's almost unimaginable. They've had to be both a grieving family and a source of crucial leads and testimony for detectives. That balance is heartbreaking. There's also a systemic angle, the idea that art and performance can mask harm. The matching tattoos, the suggestive songs, the live streams taken down after the fact, all of it now reads as potential pieces of evidence, or at least as glaring missed opportunities for intervention. Romantic homicide dropping on what turned out to be Celeste's birthday is the kind of detail that sends investigators and armchair sleuths scrambling for motive and meaning. Was that a sick coincidence, or something more deliberate? Right now, investigators are treating timing like potential data, and people online are interpreting every release date and lyric as a clue. From a legal standpoint, experts say there are multiple pathways prosecutors could use, even without proving murder. Statutory offenses, exploitation counts, and communications with minors could carry heavy penalties if supported by evidence. Reports of David allegedly messaging other underage girls, if corroborated, could show a pattern that leads to charges separate from homicide. In short, even if the angle remains unresolved, the alleged grooming and exploitation could still end a career and trigger criminal consequences. And yet, even while the industry distances itself, the public paradoxically streams the music more. The spike in plays creates a strange, awful loop. The scandal feeds curiosity. Curiosity boosts the streams, and higher streams keep the artist's work in conversation. It's a dark reminder that outrage and fascination often share a nightclub in the public mind. Meanwhile, brands, venues, and collaborators scramble to cut ties. A sobering example of how fast the machine can move when the headline hits. So what's next? There are legal timelines, forensic analyses, and likely months of pretrial jockeying ahead. But beyond court calendars and evidentiary battles, there's a cultural reckoning this story forces us to have. How do we better spot and act on red flags? How do platforms and industries prioritize safety over virality and profit? What protections should be in place to keep minors from being preyed upon in plain sight? And perhaps most importantly, how do we center the humanity of victims and families when the world wants to turn pain into content? At the end of the day, there are things no trial can fix. Celeste's family won't get back the life they lost. The emotional hole this leaves is permanent. The public shaming and the legal fallout will change lives, but they won't reverse a single day stolen from a child. The only thing we can ask for now is for a thorough investigation, accountability where the law supports it, and better systems to stop something like this from happening again.